Have you ever heard of a monk who never preached, never traveled, yet became known across the world? Hidden in the mountains of Lebanon, Saint Charbel lived in silence, poverty, and prayer. But after his death, lights shone from his tomb, miracles spread, and people of all faiths came seeking healing. What made this hidden man so powerful in spirit, shaping lives far beyond his solitude and silence? This is the story of Saint Charbel. Before beginning, drop an Amen in the comments if you're ready to learn more, and hit the like button if you're excited to dive deeper into this extraordinary story. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow along with the next inspiring stories of the saints. Chapter 1. A humble village and a holy family. High in the Lebanese mountains stood the village of Beka Akafra, where silence echoed through stone paths and cedar trees. On the 8th of May, 1828, a child named Saint Charbel Makhlouf was born into a family of humble Maronite farmers. They were poor in wealth but rich in faith, their lives rooted in both soil and prayer. While the mountains shaped their bodies through toil, it was devotion that formed their hearts. Yusef's life began in quiet holiness. He was the fifth of 5 children. His parents, Antoon and Brigitta, were devout and simple. Each day began with the sign of the cross and ended with the rosary. From early on, Yusef stood apart. While other children played, he sought stillness. His eyes often turned upward, toward the clouds and cedar trees, as if searching for something beyond this world. Neighbors noticed the boy's calm presence. There was a gentleness in his silence, a strength in his quiet ways. When Yusef was just 3, tragedy struck. His father was taken by force to serve in the Ottoman army and died in distant lands. The loss cast a deep sorrow over the family. His mother, with faith unshaken, raised her children alone until she married again, this time to a local deacon. Though the family remained poor, their home became a small church. Prayers, hymns, and sacred images filled each corner. Yusef absorbed this atmosphere like dry earth receiving rain. As he grew, Yusef worked like any village boy. He herded goats through rocky fields and tilled the soil alongside his brothers. But even in work, he sought silence. He would hum hymns as he walked, whisper prayers as he planted. His mother often found him lost in thought, hands still moving but heart clearly elsewhere. The mountains were not just his home, they were his sanctuary. Every task, no matter how small, became an offering. Yusef developed a deep devotion to the Eucharist. He would wake early and walk long distances to attend Mass. After communion, he often remained behind, kneeling in stillness long after others had gone. The consecrated host stirred something deep within him. He also loved the crucifix, gazing at it with wonder and sorrow. These were not the habits of a pious child alone, but signs of a soul being quietly drawn to holiness. One day, Yusef built a tiny grotto from rocks and sticks in the hills above his village. There, he knelt in solitude, whispering prayers known only to God. It became his secret chapel, a hidden place where his heart found peace. This small act revealed something greater, a vocation quietly blooming in silence. The mountain, the stone, the wind, they were beginning to shape not just a boy, but a future monk. In the simplicity of village life, grace was already at work. The boy Yusef was unknown to the world, but known to heaven. Though his hands were rough from labor, his soul was tender toward God. What began in poverty and prayer would one day lead to sainthood, and in that quiet village, a light had begun to shine. Chapter 2. A different kind of youth. Yusef grew up surrounded by steep cliffs, cedar forests, and the silent majesty of Lebanon's northern mountains. While other boys ran freely through the hills, he walked quietly, often alone, listening to the wind and watching the sky. He spoke little, but his silence carried depth. There was a stillness in him, a longing for something eternal. Even as a teenager, his heart beat in rhythm with prayer, not noise. Solitude became his natural home. He showed little interest in games or gatherings. While his friends laughed and played, Youssef sought corners where he could read or kneel in silence. He immersed himself in the Bible and the lives of the saints, drawn to their sacrifices, their purity, and their love for Christ. The world's amusements didn't attract him. His joy came from Scripture, and his imagination lit up not with fantasy, but with the radiant lives of holy men and women. One of his greatest devotions was to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Each day, without fail, he prayed the rosary, sometimes aloud, sometimes silently on mountain paths. He would often pause during chores to whisper a "Hail Mary," and he entrusted all things to her gentle care. To those around him, it was clear that Mary had become his second mother. In her, he found comfort, protection, and strength for the road that was slowly unfolding before him. By the age of 23, that road had become unmistakable. In 1851, without fanfare or farewell, Youssef left his family home in secret. He didn't announce it or ask permission. He simply followed what he believed was God's call. He walked away from the only life he had ever known and made his way to the monastery of Saint Maron in Anaya. There, among stone walls and chanting monks, he knocked, seeking only to give his life to God. His family was heartbroken and surprised. They had not expected him to take such a step, and certainly not without telling them first. But as the days passed, they came to accept his decision. Deep down, they had always known Youssef was set apart. His silence, his prayer, his detachment from worldly things, these had been signs of something sacred. And though they missed him terribly, they did not try to bring him back. At the monastery, Youssef began his novitiate and received a new name, Charbel. He chose it in honor of a 2nd century martyr from Antioch, a saint known for his courage and love of the Eucharist. From that moment on, the name Youssef was left behind. Charbel became more than a title. It became a mission. He embraced this new identity with total surrender, ready to disappear into the silence of the cloister for the rest of his life. Thus began the hidden life of a saint. While the world outside moved with noise and ambition, Charbel took his first vows and turned his heart fully toward heaven. He asked for no reward, desired no fame, and expected no comfort. What he sought was simple and pure, to belong to God alone. And so, in a stone monastery tucked among the cedars, the journey of Saint Charbel quietly began. Chapter 3. Formation and Trials. After entering the monastery, Charbel was sent to the monastery of Saints Cyprian and Justina in Céphifan, where he would spend 6 years studying philosophy and theology. The stone walls of the monastery echoed with sacred chants and the footsteps of young men seeking holiness. There, Charbel found both challenge and grace. The days were long, filled with prayer, study, and silence. Every book he read deepened his love for God. Every lecture was another step toward surrender. During this time, Charbel met 2 extraordinary men, Nimatullah Kassab and Al-Hardini, both known for their deep holiness and ascetic lives. They weren't merely scholars. They were living examples of total devotion. Their humility, charity, and silent strength left a lasting impression on Charbel. He observed how they prayed with their whole being, how they served without expecting notice. These men became his silent mentors, teaching him that sainthood begins with daily faithfulness, not dramatic acts. Charbel adopted a strict way of life, even beyond what was required. He fasted with intensity, often eating only once a day and choosing the simplest food. He slept on the ground without blankets, offering every discomfort as a sacrifice. He never sought comfort or recognition. His brothers in the monastery often wondered how he endured such hardship with peace. But Charbel never complained. His face remained calm, his heart centered on Christ crucified. There were moments, of course, when temptation whispered. The call of family, the ease of village life, and the noise of the world crept into his thoughts. At times, the path of the monk seemed too narrow, too hard. But Charbel turned to prayer with greater fervor. In the chapel, before the tabernacle, he found strength. It was there, in silence before the Eucharist, that his doubts faded. The world no longer had power over him. Charbel embraced every task given to him, no matter how small or menial. He worked in the kitchen, cleaned floors, tended the garden, always in silence, always with care. He believed that holiness could be found in peeling vegetables as much as in chanting the Psalms. Nothing was beneath him. He washed dishes as if washing the feet of Christ. He was never in a hurry, never distracted, always present to the moment and to God. His silence became his language. He spoke only when necessary and preferred to express himself through service and prayer. His heart belonged to God alone. He lived as if each day were a retreat, offering every moment, every breath to the Lord. While others sought understanding through words, Charbel sought union through stillness. He became a living prayer, his silence, not emptiness, but fullness, a sacred space for grace to dwell. At night, after all duties were finished, Charbel would kneel before the tabernacle. There, in the glow of a simple lamp, he spent long hours in adoration. His love for the Eucharist was deep and constant. He would whisper prayers with eyes closed and soul open. In those hidden hours, God was forming a saint not through grand gestures, but through hidden fidelity. The world did not see him, but heaven was watching closely. Chapter 4. A Quiet Priesthood. After years of formation, Charbel returned to the monastery of Saint Maron in Anaya to begin his priestly life. Unlike others who might have celebrated such a moment with music and family, Charbel's return was quiet and unnoticed. He blended into the life of the monastery without fanfare, embracing humble duties, prayer, and silence. His days were filled with the ordinary rhythm of monastic life, but behind that simplicity, his soul burned with hidden love for God. In 1859, Charbel was ordained a priest. The ceremony was small and solemn, attended only by a few monks and clergy. There were no trumpets, no public celebration, just reverent silence and a heart entirely offered to Christ. Charbel's eyes brimmed with tears as he knelt to receive the sacrament. From that moment on, he belonged more deeply to the Lord, and he vowed to live his priesthood not in grandeur, but in humility and service. What distinguished Charbel most was the way he celebrated the Holy Mass. He approached the altar with such reverence that those who watched him felt they were witnessing something heavenly. He prepared with long periods of prayer and thanksgiving. His hands moved slowly, his voice trembled with devotion. He truly believed he was holding Christ himself. People said that just attending one of his masses could move the soul to conversion. His discipline as a monk remained unchanged. Charbel fasted year-round, taking only one simple meal each day, usually vegetables or herbs. He never sought comfort. His cell was bare, his clothes rough, his bed little more than a plank. When offered more, he gently refused. His fasting was not for show, it was an offering. With each sacrifice, he quietly asked the Lord to bless someone in need, to heal a wound, or to strengthen a soul. Charbel was obedient in all things. He never left the monastery unless ordered by his superior. Even within the walls, he would ask permission for the smallest actions, whether to borrow a tool, light a candle, or take a walk. Once, he even requested permission to drink water when he was sick. His humility was so deep that he believed nothing, not even a sip of water, should be done without blessing and obedience. Though he lived mostly hidden, Charbel served his community with deep love. He spent hours hearing confessions, guiding souls back to God with patience and mercy. He visited the sick in silence, offering simple prayers and gentle blessings. He never preached grand sermons or wrote great books, but through his presence, people felt touched by the peace of heaven. He was a priest who gave everything quietly, daily, without complaint. To the world, he appeared as just another silent monk, hidden behind monastery walls. But to God, his priesthood shone with quiet brilliance. Charbel's holiness did not make noise. It whispered through every gesture, every prayer. In that sacred silence, souls found peace, hearts were stirred, and grace flowed freely. Heaven was near, though few on earth noticed. Chapter 5. Retreat into the Hermit Life. In 1875, after many years of faithful service as a priest, Charbel asked for permission to live as a hermit. His heart longed for deeper silence and closer union with God. With the blessing of his superior, he moved into the hermitage of Saints Peter and Paul, a small stone dwelling on a hillside not far from the monastery of Anaya. From that day forward, Charbel embraced a life that was hidden, poor, and profoundly sacred. The hermitage was simple and bare 4 stone walls, a wooden door, and a low ceiling. There was no heating for the winter cold, no furniture for comfort, no light except the sun and a single oil lamp. Snow would blow through the cracks in winter, and the summer heat offered little mercy. But Charbel did not complain. He called it his paradise. For him, simplicity was not a burden, but a gift. Each day followed the same holy rhythm. Charbel rose before dawn, prayed the divine office, and celebrated the Holy Mass with deep reverence. Afterward, he worked with his hands, gathering wood, tending the small garden, or repairing his tools. In the afternoons, he knelt in adoration before the Blessed Sacrament, whispering prayers only God could hear. His entire life became one continuous offering of time, labor, silence, and love. Charbel spoke only when absolutely necessary. He observed a strict rule of silence, even with visiting monks. His words were few, but when he did speak, they were full of peace. He believed that in silence, the soul could better hear God. The wind through the cedars, the hum of insects, the echo of his own heartbeat, all became part of his quiet liturgy, a song of praise without sound. At night, by the soft glow of a candle, Charbel would copy prayers by hand or read the lives of the saints. He found inspiration in their sacrifices and drew strength from their faith. Every page he wrote, every line he meditated on, was done slowly and prayerfully. In this way, his mind was always on heavenly things, his thoughts resting not on the world, but on eternity. He rarely left the hermitage. Only when summoned by the superior or for Mass in the chapel did he step outside. Even then, his eyes stayed low and his steps were slow. He had made a vow to belong entirely to God, and nothing, not even nature's beauty, could distract him from that vow. He lived as if the world no longer existed, and his only task was to love and adore. In the freezing winters and humid summers, Charbel endured every discomfort in silence. His body aged and weakened, but he offered each ache, each shiver, as a gift to God. Illness did not disturb his peace. Poverty did not trouble him. In suffering, he found joy. In deprivation, he found freedom. And in this hidden, humble hermitage, heaven quietly drew near. Chapter 6. A Supernatural Communion. As the years passed, the hermitage of Saints Peter and Paul became a place wrapped in mystery. Fellow monks at the monastery of Anaya began to notice something extraordinary on certain nights. A strange light would shine from Charbel's cell. It wasn't from a lamp or candle. The glow was soft, unearthly, and unmistakable. Some monks watched in awe from a distance, unsure what to say. Heaven, it seemed, was visiting that little stone room. Charbel's union with God deepened, especially during the Holy Mass. Those permitted to assist him began to speak of moments when he appeared to lose all awareness of the world around him. His eyes fixed on the host, his body stilled, and time itself seemed to pause. They believed he was in ecstasy, completely caught up in the presence of Christ. For Charbel, the altar was not a place of routine, but a doorway into divine love. One winter night, a violent snowstorm blanketed the mountain. The monks assumed no one could leave the hermitage in such weather, but the next morning, they found footprints in the snow leading from Charbel's door to the monastery cemetery. Someone had seen him from afar, kneeling in prayer among the graves. He had braved the storm to pray for the souls of the dead. Nothing, not even freezing winds, could stop his love or his intercession. There was a day when a consecrated host slipped from his hands during Mass. Charbel was overcome. He dropped to his knees and wept for hours. No one could console him. His sorrow wasn't from embarrassment, it came from deep reverence. For him, the Eucharist was not a symbol, but the living Jesus. That single moment, though unnoticed by the world, revealed a heart completely given to the mystery of the altar. People from nearby villages began visiting the hermitage, even if only to stand quietly nearby. They said, the air around the hermit's cell felt different, peaceful, holy. Some claimed they felt a warmth or heard a voice inside urging them to pray. No one left without feeling touched. It wasn't Charbel's words that moved them. He spoke almost nothing, but something unseen seemed to radiate from his presence. Soon, people came with requests. Sick children, wounded farmers, grieving mothers. They asked him to pray for healing. Charbel never promised anything. He simply listened, nodded, and brought each intention to God in silence. And yet, many returned, with stories of sudden recoveries or unexplained peace. He never claimed credit, never acknowledged the praise. He only directed hearts back to God, the true source of every blessing. Even as stories of miracles spread, Charbel remained unchanged. He never sought attention, never allowed fame to enter his heart. His focus stayed on the crucifix and the tabernacle. The world may have started to notice him, but he kept his eyes fixed on eternity. In his humility, God was glorified, and through this quiet hermit, heaven continued to touch the earth. Chapter 7. The Final Stroke. On the morning of the 16th of December, 1898, the Hermitage Chapel was wrapped in silence, as it always was, while Charbel prepared for Mass. The cold mountain air filled the room, but his heart was ablaze with devotion. As he reached the moment of consecration, speaking the sacred words that called down heaven, he suddenly trembled. In the very act of lifting the host, his body collapsed. He had suffered a stroke at the holiest point of the liturgy. Fellow monks rushed to help him. They carried him gently from the chapel to his simple cell, where straw served as his bed and the cross hung above the door. His body was weak, unresponsive. There was little they could do except keep watch and pray. The doctor could not reach the remote hermitage quickly, and even if he had, there was no cure to offer. Charbel had entered his final agony, embraced in silence. Over the next 3 days, Charbel said nothing, but his body spoke a deeper language. He clutched a crucifix to his chest, kissing it again and again. His eyes, though dimmed by weakness, remained fixed toward the tabernacle. When he could no longer move, his lips still quivered with silent prayer. He neither asked for comfort nor feared death. He was not dying in despair, he was going home to the one he had loved all his life. On the night of the 24th of December, 1898, Christmas Eve, the Hermitage bell rang for midnight Mass. As the notes echoed through the mountains, Charbel took his final breath. He died as he had lived, hidden, prayerful, surrendered. No crowd gathered, no candles were lit in procession. Only the angels knew that a soul deeply pleasing to God had been called to eternal glory. And as the world welcomed the newborn Christ, heaven received one of its quietest saints. News of his passing spread quickly among the monks, but they did not cry aloud or rush about. The monastery fell into a profound silence, deeper than usual. It was not only the loss of a brother, it was the sense that something holy had left the earth. They knelt in prayer, not mourning as the world mourns, but offering thanks for a life so completely poured out for God. Charbel was buried the next day in the monastery cemetery, beneath a simple stone and cedar tree. There was no marble tomb, no fine casket. His body was wrapped in the robe he had worn for years, the brown habit of a monk who had asked for nothing and given everything. He was laid to rest among other monks, with no earthly mark to set him apart. But heaven had already engraved his name in glory. Though the grave closed over him, Charbel's story was far from over. The mountains would remember. The soil that covered him would soon reveal a mystery, and the quiet life of the hermit priest, hidden from the world, was about to shine with a light that no darkness could contain. Chapter 8: Mysterious Light and the Incorrupt Body. Several weeks after Father Charbel's passing, the monks at Anaya began to witness something they could not explain. Each night, from the direction of his grave, a gentle light glowed through the darkness. It was not the flicker of candlelight or lantern, it was steady, pure, and strangely peaceful. Night after night, the light returned. The monks watched in silence, hearts stirred. Something holy was happening beneath the earth where Charbel had been laid to rest. Unable to ignore the signs, the monks asked permission to exhume the body. With reverence and care, they opened the grave. What they found was astonishing. Charbel's body lay perfectly intact, untouched by decay. His face was peaceful, his skin soft and lifelike. A sweet, unexplainable fragrance rose from the tomb, neither floral nor earthly, but something heavenly. The monks, though shaken, knew they were in the presence of a mystery that only God could unveil. Even more astounding, the body of Father Charbel began to release a mixture of blood and moisture, as though still alive. This continued for days, then weeks. Despite the passage of time, his corpse remained fresh and flexible. Medical experts were called, but none could offer an explanation. There was no scientific reasoning for a dead body to behave as if it still lived. Yet, that is exactly what the Church witnessed. To preserve and study the phenomenon, the Church placed Charbel's body in a glass coffin. It was placed in the monastery's chapel for observation. Pilgrims and priests alike came to see the miracle for themselves. His face remained serene, his body unchanged. Doctors took samples, theologians made notes, but no answers came. The incorrupt monk lay peacefully in full view, continuing to speak of the eternal through his silent witness. As word spread, crowds began arriving at Anaya. Hundreds came, then thousands, some curious, others desperate for healing. They stood in line to touch the glass, to kneel and pray. Many reported being cured of illnesses after visiting the coffin. Others spoke of a deep peace they could not explain. For the faithful, there was no doubt. Father Charbel was interceding from heaven. His holiness was no longer hidden. It was now a light for all. Doctors, scientists, and journalists came from across Lebanon and beyond. Each left with the same conclusion. There was no natural explanation. The body defied decay, and the healings could not be dismissed. Even non-believers admitted something mysterious was taking place. Many visitors left not only in awe, but in conversion. The hermit who had lived in silence was now stirring hearts without a single word. Soon, the name of Charbel Makhlouf spread beyond the mountains. From villages to cities, from Lebanon to neighboring countries, people spoke of the incorrupt priest of Anaya. Stories of light, healing, and grace filled the air. And thus, the humble monk who had chosen obscurity in life became, in death, a living sign of God's glory drawing the world quietly toward the mystery of heaven. Chapter 9. Miracles across the world. The miracles surrounding Saint Charbel did not remain within the hills of Lebanon. They spread far and wide, reaching people of every background and belief. Muslims, Orthodox Christians, and Catholics alike began reporting healings after praying through his intercession. It was as if his love, once hidden in a tiny hermitage, had been unleashed across the earth. His holiness knew no boundaries, religious, cultural, or geographic. It was a love that touched all who sought it in faith. Many people began to share dreams and visions in which they saw Charbel appear to them. Often, he stood surrounded by light, brilliant, white, and peaceful. Sometimes, he placed his hand upon the person, or simply looked at them with compassion. And when they awoke, they found themselves healed or consoled. These dreams occurred to believers and unbelievers alike. God was using Charbel to reach hearts in a deeply personal and mysterious way. Some stories were astonishing. A man suffering from late-stage cancer placed a small image of Saint Charbel under his pillow, praying each night for healing. Within days, he experienced a dramatic improvement. Tests showed the cancer had disappeared. Doctors were baffled. In another case, a mother with a paralyzed child brought a piece of cloth touched to Charbel's tomb and laid it across the child's legs. Days later, the child began to walk. Miracles like these multiplied. As stories spread, so did images and statues of Saint Charbel. His icon, bearded, hooded, and bathed in light, began appearing in homes, churches, and hospitals far beyond Lebanon. Devotion to him grew in the United States, France, Australia, Brazil, and beyond. Immigrant communities carried their faith with them, and in doing so, they introduced the world to the silent monk of Anaya. People who had never heard his name were now calling upon him in prayer. Even priests began testifying to his mysterious presence. Some reported sensing Charbel's nearness while celebrating the Eucharist, feeling a sudden warmth, a light touch, or a deep stillness in the chapel. One priest in Argentina wept uncontrollably during Mass after hearing a whisper in his heart, "I am with you." He later discovered that the parishioners had been praying a novena to Saint Charbel. The hermit priest continued to walk among the faithful in unseen ways. The Church, careful in discerning miracles, began to investigate. Many cases of healing were officially recorded and approved after rigorous review. Doctors and theologians worked together to examine the facts. These were not vague claims or rumors, they were testimonies with names, dates, and medical proof. In time, the list of miracles grew too long to ignore. The Church could no longer doubt that grace was flowing through the humble monk's intercession. Today, the monastery of Anaya is one of the most visited pilgrimage sites in the Middle East. Pilgrims come from every continent to kneel at his tomb, to pray, to give thanks. Candles flicker day and night, and silence fills the chapel. Though Saint Charbel never traveled far in life, his mission now spans the world. His hidden love has become a beacon of hope for the sick, the broken, and all who long for God. Chapter 10. Recognized by the Church. As the devotion to Charbel spread and miracles multiplied, the Maronite Church in Lebanon knew that something extraordinary had taken root. His story, once hidden in the silence of a hermitage, had now become known across continents. It was no longer just the people who were speaking. Bishops and church leaders were listening. A formal cause for beatification was prepared and sent to Rome. The world was beginning to recognize the holiness Lebanon had long embraced. On the 5th of December 1965, at the close of the Second Vatican Council, Pope Paul VI solemnly declared Father Charbel Makhlouf a blessed of the Church. The moment was filled with grace. Bishops from around the world stood in awe as the Pope spoke of a monk who had never preached to crowds or written books, yet had touched the world more deeply than many who had. His beatification was a quiet thunder, a whisper heard by millions. Pope Paul VI offered words that echoed far beyond St. Peter's Basilica. He spoke of Charbel's silence, not as emptiness, but as power. "The silence of Charbel," he said, "has resounded more loudly than the words of many." In a world filled with noise, Charbel had chosen the stillness of God. In his humble cell, he had discovered the eternal, and from that hidden place, his light had reached hearts on every continent. 12 years later, on the 9th of October 1977, Pope Paul VI canonized Charbel as a saint of the Universal Church. In the heart of Vatican City, the name of the Lebanese hermit was lifted before heaven and earth. His image was raised alongside the saints of every age. He who once slept on straw beneath a leaky roof now stood among the great witnesses of faith, declared a saint for all people, in all times. Thousands of Lebanese pilgrims, both Catholic and Orthodox, traveled to Rome for the occasion. Many wept openly as his name was proclaimed. It was more than national pride, it was spiritual thanksgiving. The people saw in Charbel a reflection of their own struggles, their mountains, their faith. His canonization was not just an honor for Lebanon, it was a gift to every Christian who longed to meet God in the silence of prayer. In the years that followed, Charbel became a symbol of unity and hope in a region often torn by conflict. Churches, hospitals, and schools were named after him. His icons spread into homes, chapels, and cathedrals across the world. Wherever people suffered in silence, they looked to Charbel as a brother and intercessor. His life reminded them that holiness is possible, even in hiddenness. His presence brought comfort. And so, he became known not only as Saint Charbel, but as the Hermit of Lebanon. His name now rests among the saints, but his legacy lives in the hearts of countless souls. He preached without a voice. He healed without a touch. He converted without a word. Through his holy silence, Saint Charbel continues to call the world back to God. Chapter 11. A Saint for the Whole World. Every year, on July 24, churches across the globe celebrate the feast of Saint Charbel. What began as a quiet remembrance in Lebanon has become a worldwide day of prayer and healing. From rural villages to large cathedrals, from the Middle East to the Americas, people gather to honor the silent monk who never sought recognition but now receives the love and devotion of millions. His feast is marked with processions, liturgies, and quiet moments of thanksgiving. The monastery at Anaya, once a remote and hidden place, is now one of the most visited pilgrimage sites in the region. Each year, millions of people climb the mountain paths to kneel at his tomb. Some come in silence, others in tears. Many arrive sick, wounded, or searching for peace, and time after time they leave changed. The presence of Charbel is still felt there, gentle, powerful, and full of grace. Saint Charbel has become more than a local figure. He is a universal sign of God's healing and love. His life of silence speaks louder than any sermon. In a noisy, restless world, he is a reminder of the power of stillness, the strength of simplicity, and the beauty of surrender. Those who suffer see in him a companion. Those who doubt see in him a light. He is a saint for the sick, the searching, and the silent. Hospitals, churches, and schools now bear his name. Across Lebanon and around the world, buildings have been dedicated to his memory. Some are places of physical healing, others of spiritual growth. In Brazil, the United States, and France, entire parishes have been founded under his patronage. His image, hooded, bearded, and calm, greets visitors at doors of mercy. He has become a spiritual refuge for those seeking comfort. Young people especially are drawn to him. In an age of distraction, they find in Charbel a model of focus. In a world of excess, he teaches them the joy of simplicity. Many have said that discovering Saint Charbel helped them return to prayer, to the sacraments, and to a deeper relationship with God. His story reminds them that holiness is not out of reach. It begins with silence, trust, and love. Some have called him the Padre Pio of the Middle East, a title that reflects his deep prayer, his miraculous intercession, and his impact on generations. Like Padre Pio, Charbel bore spiritual wounds in secret, and his life continues to draw hearts to Christ. He is not just Lebanon's saint, he is the East's answer to the West's great mystics, and through him, East and West meet at the feet of the crucified. Today, statues of Saint Charbel stand not only in Lebanese villages, but in cities across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. He is venerated in Latin masses and Maronite liturgies alike. In every language, the same prayer rises: Saint Charbel, pray for us. The hermit who once lived in silence now speaks across the world, not in words, but in love. Chapter 12. Prayer to Saint Charbel. Saint Charbel's life teaches us that holiness is not loud, but hidden. In a world that celebrates appearance, he embraced invisibility. He reminds us that silence is not emptiness, it is space for God to speak. His entire life was an offering, not of grand achievements, but of small, faithful acts of love. And through this simplicity, he became a light for the entire world. His message is clear: grace flows through surrender. Charbel's path calls us back to what matters most. In our noisy, hurried world, he invites us to pause, to pray, and to listen. He teaches that even in the most ordinary tasks, working with our hands, keeping silence, enduring suffering, we can glorify God. He showed us how to carry the cross with peace, how to love without seeking praise, and how to walk with Christ in the shadows where few dare to go. We are not all called to live in hermitages, but we are all called to holiness. Charbel reminds us that God is found in the quiet corners of our daily lives. When we make space for prayer, when we forgive, when we suffer with love, we are walking in his footsteps. In him, we see that being faithful in hiddenness is more powerful than being praised in public. His life was silent, but through it, heaven still speaks. Now, let us pray with Saint Charbel. Saint Charbel, lover of silence, you withdrew from the world to seek only God, yet your light now shines across the earth. You who touched no microphone, wrote no book, yet stirred hearts across continents, pray for us, who struggle in the noise of modern life. Teach us to love the silence where God dwells. Help us to find strength in prayer and joy in the simple offering of our daily duties. Saint Charbel, who bore suffering with peace, intercede for all who carry heavy burdens. For the sick, bring healing. For the anxious, bring calm. For the grieving, bring hope. For the doubting, bring faith. You who spent your life in humble obedience, help us to accept God's will with trust, even when the path is hidden. May we live each day as you lived yours, quietly, faithfully, and close to Christ. Pray for our families, that we may love generously. Pray for our priests, that they may serve with purity. Pray for our church, that she may be a refuge of grace. Saint Charbel, be near to us in our hidden moments. When no one sees, may God see. When we feel forgotten, remind us that we are held. When we long for healing, carry our prayers to heaven. And when our journey is done, welcome us into the eternal silence where every whisper is worship, every tear is turned to lie, and God is all in all. Saint Charbel, pray for us. Amen.